We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It's Saturday and weekends can be a little low key, but we had some things happen yesterday, plenty of stuff to talk about. So we'll fill out the hour today. I'm pretty sure of that. It's not always easy on weekends, but somehow we get through it. Somehow we always get it done. So never fear. A couple of things I want to talk about. The first one I think is kind of funny. On TikTok, I'm starting to get a lot of comments. I told you yesterday about the people talking about the spot on my nose, that their uncle had it and he's dead now. I already explained that. It's nothing. It's just a facial imperfection. And I'm 63 years old. And I tell you what, I got a lot more than that. I'm not going to show you, but I got a lot of imperfections. But the other one I find kind of funny. Prior to being on TikTok, I never really wore hats before that much. It and I don't know why I started doing it. I think it had a lot to do with the doctor once told me, because I have thinning hair and shit. They said you should always wear a hat because you'll get sunburn and then you actually might get cancer. So I tried to protect myself from that. So I started wearing hats. Then I kind of got used to it. And now it's kind of the thing on TikTok. I'm always wearing a hat. But the funniest thing is I get people now sending me comments on my posts. Oh man, where'd you get that hat? Nice hat. I'd like to where do you get those hats? Now, I don't have a sponsor who I sell hats for. I don't have any sponsors other than, Spotify talking about doing your own podcast. And I look at that as help to you as much as it is a sponsorship. Nonetheless, they keep commenting about these hats. And I've got a bunch of different hats, and people will say, where did you get them? Now, this is the humorous part of this. I don't ever spend a lot of money on clothes. In fact, in the last couple of years, I told my wife, I said, I'm not wearing anything that isn't comfortable or loose or easy. Just not going to do it. I wore jeans, I wore dress pants. I did all that stuff when I'm younger. I don't have to fucking do that now. So I wear a lot of t-shirts, a lot of polo shirts. I wear a lot of jogger pants in the winter when you need long. I wear shorts in the summer, just whatever's easy and whatever's loose. I just like feeling comfortable. But I never spend a lot of money on shit because, putting nice, expensive clothes on me is kind of like putting lipstick on a pig. Nice try. I got bigger issues to address other than my attire. But anyway, regarding these hats, what's funny about these hats is I don't have any special place I get hats, but lately I've been getting them from one place online. It's not a fancy hat shop. These aren't expensive hats. In fact, I get it from one of these shitty little apps, kind of like the Wish app. Remember that, where you buy all this cheap shit? I It's called Temu, Temu. It just cropped up on my phone one time and I was looking through it and I go, fuck, that's cheap. I'll buy that. So I started seeing some hats that kind of fit what I liked, and they had a deal. I had to spend at least $10, and these hats were like $3 a piece. That's all they were. And they still are. I mean, you can check the app. I'm not doing a commercial for them. I'm not making any money off of it, but people want to know where I get my hats. Nowhere special. There's only two requirements I have for hats: that they have, let me show you. You see how they have that reinforcement right on the crown? I got to have that because otherwise it fits flat on my head and it feels stupid and it doesn't work. The other thing, it can't say anything across the front, because when I'm on camera, everything is backwards. That would be a distraction if it was backwards. And I don't like to promote other stuff. I'm just wearing the hat to kind of balance my fat head here. But anyway, anybody's wondering where I get the hats, go to the app, Temu. They sell all kinds of hats, and you can buy them from $2 to $5, and they're cheap as shit. That's where I get them. That's where I get them. There's nothing special going on here. It's weird though. that people would notice that and then ask me about it. Where can I get that? I should do commercials for only places that sells cheap shit, but then I wouldn't feel good about it. Okay, I got one other thing before we get into this. I've got some emails. This one's kind of petty, but it's a pet peeve of mine. And for the life of me, I don't fucking understand it. You know who John Eastman is? John Eastman is that lawyer of Donald Trump's. He was one of the architects of the attempt to overthrow the government, the coup. You know that guy. Have you ever seen that guy on TV? There's something about him that just bugs the fuck out of me. And this isn't something that would bug me about people. I don't notice things unless it's really obvious. And this is pretty petty. And this is maybe shaming in some way, but I don't care. I'm not above that. This motherfucker's a lawyer, trained at Harvard. He's about my age. He's probably almost exactly my age. But if you look at that fucker, watch him on TV next time he's on. Does nobody tell this motherfucker that somebody should shave or trim his nose hairs? I mean, it's ridiculous. It's hanging down out of his nose as if it's a waterfall or something. I mean, I'll be honest with you. If I'm at home with my wife and I've got a hair sticking out or something askew or shit on my face, she's all over me. She's wiping it off, straightening it out, or telling me to do something about that. Apparently, nobody tells John Eastman this because it's absolutely ridiculous. Now, here's the problem. Now that I've told you this, you're going to look at it next time you see John Eastman, and you're going to go, fucking gross, because it kind of is. I don't really worry about what people look like, but this Trump-la-fuck motherfucker could at least do that. All right, now that we've got the important stuff out of the way, let's get down to business. I've got some emails here, and these first comments come from Lisa. Now, I think I told you yesterday, Lisa's doing me the favor of, as the day goes along, she kind of keeps track of what's going on in news. And if there's something that is a high point to her, she'll send it to me. So I got 3 little short takes that she sent to me, and they were all very valuable. First of all, she says, Trump overnight sent a letter, not a motion, to Aileen Cannon, the judge down in Florida, asking her to do something about Jack Smith and his attempts to set jury selection on December 11th, 2023, and trial on January of 2024. That's for DC case, of course. He's in trouble. That's interesting. And I think it's possibly unethical or illegal for him to contact the judge directly. Now, it'll be interesting to see how she responds, if she responds. But see, Donald thinks he has her in his pocket, and he might very well have. But if she is in his pocket, she's not going to be around very long. Jack Smith is not going to tolerate that. And if he's heard about this letter to Cannon, he's going to have some shit to say about it. And I'm sure he's found out about it because we fucking know about it. Now, what she went on to say about this, she says it's not because she's prosecuting his January 6th case, but because she has been too tough on insurrectionists. A censure resolution will never pass the House. Here's the thing. Cannon has nothing to do with the January 6th case, so I don't even know what Donald Trump is fucking doing here. But Donald Trump is a dumb motherfucker. We know this, and he will, as I've said before, he's so desperate, he will do virtually anything in hopes that something will stick. Last thing she writes is Trump is skipping the debates. He's doing a live online on Twitter with Tucker Carlson. He's doing this exact same time of debates, which will pull viewers from Fox debates. Fox is going to be livid. I see a lawsuit coming for Tucker. They're not going to take this sitting down. Yeah, Donald Trump doesn't want to show up. Donald Trump's in a weird situation. He doesn't want to show up at the debates because they're going to ask him about his crimes. He doesn't want to talk about that. But at the same time, these people are going to be shining, at least in their minds, and probably talking shit about Donald Trump. That drives him nuts that he can't be there and fight back or shout them down. So he's in a weird situation. So he comes out yesterday and he says, yeah, I'm going to do an interview with Tucker Carlson on Twitter, which is now X or whatever the fuck it is. But here's the thing. That doesn't do much. All he's going to be doing there is preaching to the choir. I mean, if he's on Fox News, people like me and other folks will have a chance to see it, and maybe he can convert some people. But if he's doing that on Twitter with Tucker Carlson, the only people will be listening will be his base, and they don't have to be sold. The only advantage he could have by having them come is that maybe he could grift some more. So this isn't a wise move by Donald Trump. Now, there was another suggestion and another thought what might happen on debate night, which is next Wednesday. And I think this would have been a better idea. This would have been a brilliant idea for Donnie Trump. And that was to turn himself in during the debate. So all cameras would be pointed at Donald Trump. They wouldn't be paying attention to Fox News. Even Fox News would have to cut away to show this. But Donnie Trump made the wrong choice again. Oh, big surprise. Donnie Trump, again, not the smartest motherfucker in the world. We're now hearing as far as when he's going to turn himself in. Earlier, somebody said, well, it'll be early in the week. And now the last thing I heard, that it'll probably be late in the week, Thursday or Friday. I don't know which it'll be, but it will be a spectacle. And frankly, if he was smart, he'd do it on Wednesday, but he's not smart, so it'll probably happen Thursday or Friday. All right, this next one comes from Jace. He says, well, he chickened out, according to the New York Times. Don the Con going to skip the Republican clown debate. Yep. What do you want to bet he'll be more of a conversation than Joe Biden? They'll be talking about him more than Joe Biden. Yeah, I don't think there's any question. Then again, didn't Ron DeSantis folks tell him to defend Don? What a joke. Would have been fun to see Christy and him argue, but he's definitely afraid of anyone who stands up to him. Typical bully. So I guess this will just highlight the end of a captain personality, DeSantis, that in itself is worth watching. I can see Don changing his minds if folks call him out. Anyway, I'll be watching with popcorn in hand to see the GOP argue over who can out-Trump T-Rump. Jace. Yeah, Donald Trump says he's not going, but again, I wouldn't bet on that until the last minute. Donald Trump doesn't do a lot of things he says he's going to do, or he does a lot of things that he says he's not going to do, both ways. And he could end up showing up. Again, he's an emotional thinker and a reactor. He's reactionary. So if something hits him wrong, he'll be on the show. That's just who he is. But I think you're right. I think his biggest fear about going on the show is Chris Christie, because Chris Christie knows his game, and Chris Christie is a loudmouth bully just like Donald Trump. And the last thing a bully wants to walk into is another bully. Chris Christie, on the other hand, doesn't care because he's got nothing to fucking lose. Last report, he's got 1% nationally. He is beating Ron DeSantis in New Hampshire, but so the fuck what? He's still way behind Donald Trump at this point. I think that Donald Trump is afraid of getting into it with somebody who's going to give it as much as Donald Trump would put it out. So he'll do Tucker Carlson. It'll be a waste of time. Tucker Carlson's ratings have been dropping like a rock, so it's no big deal. You know, it's like the big boys going on the networks and Donnie's going on some shitty little radio station. So we'll see what happens. He may change his mind. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. All right, the next one comes from John. He says, "Dear sir, listening to today's TikTok, Friday, August 18th, as I heard you describe the odious Ginny Thomas as that wildebeest. I must confess I hurt myself laughing. Thank you, Mike." John. Yeah, I don't know where that came from. That's just the image I get when I look at Ginny Thomas. But what I thought was funny is this comment that John made. I got tons of those. For whatever reason, the reference to Ginny Thomas as a wildebeest tickled a lot of people, and they made comments. So I'm glad I could touch a chord there and resonate with some folks. Yes, she does look like a wildebeest. She is not an attractive woman. And it's not just because of her looks, but her looks suck. It's because of the foul and vile person she is inside. That's where the ugliness truly comes from. All right, the next one comes from Tommy. He says, "How come Steve Bannon is not being mentioned for any indictments, or Roger Stone for that matter? Do you think it's just going to happen at a later date? I'm not sure I can wait much longer for that piece of crap to get put in jail. Thank you, Tommy." Well, he's going to get put in jail. There's no question about it. He's already been convicted of contempt of Congress. He's got an appeal now, and he's able to sit out in the free world during his appeal. That appeal won't work, and he will end up having to go to jail, maybe for a year or less. But in as far as the January 6th situation, I got to believe that he is involved. Keep in mind the January 6th indictment only was of Donald Trump. Now, we know we're talking conspiracies here, so that means other people, a whole shitload of other people. And yes, there are going to be superseding indictments, and it's going to include the likes of sitting members of Congress, possibly Ginny Thomas, possibly Roger Stone, and even Steve Bannon, because we know Steve Bannon was involved in this bullshit as well. So yeah, I do think it's going to happen at a later date. I do think Steve Bannon will be caught up in this. He talks too much. He was connected to too many people, and he was involved in the January 6th thing, even though he wasn't working for Donald Trump at the time. All right. This next email comes from Daniel in Los Angeles. "Hi, Mike. Looks like you're busy of late, traveling, new platform on YouTube, and babysitting duties. I've been on YouTube for a while. I just started in the last 3-4 months putting everything on there, but I've been on YouTube for a while, just nobody noticed. And babysitting duties. That is the hardest job I look forward to every damn time." I watch this little kid, and she's so independent and takes no shit. She reminds me of when I was young, but she's a lot stronger and a lot smarter than I ever was. And it can be a task to follow her. I saw this meme the other day, and it's pretty accurate. It said, "What is the fastest mammal on Earth?" And the answer was a toddler when you're trying to find out what they've got in their mouth, because they'll just fucking go. Anyway, Daniel says this: "I've been aware of our political scene since about the mid-'80s while in high school. My civics teacher made her class interesting and was very popular with students. Since the mid-'80s, my recollection of politicians being on TV was that they were informal checks and balances. If a politician was caught lying, they were called out or resigned from office because of public accountability and public norms. We've come a long way since the mid-'80s. Politicians lie during their stump speech, during debate stages, and even during congressional committee meetings. Now, in an effort to provide solutions, we, the people, should demand laws about truth from politicians. Anytime a politician makes a speech while running during their office, they should have to swear an oath to tell the truth and subject these politicians to perjury if they knowingly tell a false statement, orally or in a written statement. This treads along our First Amendment But if they're telling the truth, they shouldn't have anything to worry about. I think the hard part is getting Congress to get this bill going. Daniel from Los Angeles. Yeah, I think that's damn near impossible. I don't think you're going to get anybody to swear an oath before giving a speech, a stump speech, or any kind of speech, or any kind of written statement. It's not going to happen. You could probably take every member of Congress and catch them in a lie. That's just part of the fucking job. That's not to say we can't do anything about it. I mean, up until Donald Trump, we had these, what they call norms, not laws, norms, meaning nobody in their right mind would step over those norms. Otherwise, they'd get into trouble. Well, then Donald Trump comes along. He walks right over those norms. Nothing happens to him. Well, that's a dangerous situation. Future presidents, future politicians now know those norms don't mean anything. So we're going to get more people to try that bullshit. The only way we can change that is through accountability and through public opinion. Now, some people might look at Donald Trump as a role model, that they want to be like him. And when they get in politics, 2 years, 5 years, 20 years down the line, well, Donald Trump did it, so I can do it. And maybe that's true while you're president. However, if Donald Trump, after being indicted 4 times, probably more coming, 91 felony charges, when he finally gets convicted and he finally gets punished, that will make people step more lightly down the road. Because while Donald Trump got away with it during the presidency, he didn't ultimately get away with it. He will have paid the price after leaving office. You know, when Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford said he was doing it for the betterment of this country. We need a time to heal, time to move on. And that's funny. That's what the Republicans are saying now. Let's let it be tried at the ballot box. Yeah, of course, that's what you want. You want the people in their votes to decide whether this guy's guilty or not. But look, we're not talking about misdeeds while you're a politician. We're talking about crimes against this country. Some of the most egregious crimes, some of the most prolific criminals in Donald Trump and all his little minions. The ballot box isn't enough. There has to be accountability for crimes against this country, especially crimes this serious. So, that's well and good that you would say that, but the Republicans, I mean, but that's not going to work. And that's not how it's going to play out. What we need to do is have higher expectations. I mean, up till recently, we have had a lot of complacency by people in this country. Well, there's nothing I can do. Let the politicians do whatever they do. They probably know what's right. Well, we now know that that isn't necessarily true. We now know that they will do virtually anything they can get away with. So we have to be a little stronger as a people. We have to expect more, and we have to pressure these people to do what they say they're going to do and be honest about it. And we also have to have some accountability. So when Donald Trump and some of these other Republicans go down with convictions, and then we expect more and push harder, that should help to fix the problem we have with our norms. All right, and Daniel says he's in Los Angeles, and I've been watching the weather about this this hurricane headed up the coast of Mexico and California, looking to maybe make ground at in San Diego on Sunday, maybe LA by Monday. This is a very weird situation. It's been like 80 years since a tropical storm has hit that part of the country. Couldn't be climate change, could it? Anyway, Daniel, if you're in Los Angeles, I don't know what to expect from a hurricane, never been in a hurricane, but please be safe And whatever you do when the hurricane's going and the waters are coming in, if you're staying in Los Angeles, don't go in your car. That's the last fucking place you want to be. Stay out of your car. Now, it's interesting. They're talking about surges and where there could be flash flooding. They're talking as far out as Death Valley, Palm Springs, even Las Vegas. So this could be a hell of a deal. So we'll be praying for you and thinking about you, those folks in California and in Mexico and in Nevada for that matter. And we want you to be safe. And hopefully this doesn't end up being as bad as it might sound. All right, we talked about it earlier in the emails. Let's go a little more in depth into this. Donald Trump, of course, we know will not participate in the Republican Party's first presidential primary debate next week. Instead, he's going to sit with an interview with Tucker Carlson. Both outlets reported that Trump had spent the last day telling people close to him about his plans. Both also reported that sources reminded them how Trump is prone to changing his mind. And this is true. But Fox News is going to be pissed, really pissed, because as bad as Donald Trump is, as big a shit show as he is going to pull some ratings. And without Donald Trump, that debate will not have nearly as many viewers as they would hope. And you know what? I'm cool with that. If Donald Trump wants to go on Twitter and do his little interview with Tucker Carlson, which won't do any good, that's cool. But I'll guarantee you this, after the interview is done with Tucker Carlson and after the debate is done, Donald Trump will regret his decision. He can't stand not being the center of attention. He can't stand not being able to fight back. So after the debate, I'm sure he'll go to Truth Social spewing a bunch of shit about all the people on the stage during the Republican debate. And that's what I like best about this. It's what I've said all along. The Democrats will not have to tear down the Republican Party. The Republican Party will tear down themselves. And that night, Wednesday, for the debate, will be the start of such a thing. As it becomes closer to primaries and things become more contentious, it is going to get ugly. And it's going to be entertaining as a motherfucker. I also made a prediction about Wednesday, the debate. The prediction is that that may be the end of Ron DeSantis's campaign. And it's because Ron DeSantis isn't good in these kinds of situations. You can't make him mad and then he just loses his shit and does dumb things, says dumb things. He's not good at handling confrontation. He loses his mind and then he looks stupid. And this will be on national television. So if there is a time when Ron DeSantis is going to have to step back, it will be after the debate. It may not click in his mind until a week or two or maybe a month later, but things will drop off for Ron DeSantis, and this won't be a good experience for him. I know he thinks he's going to do a great job, but Ronnie, you're not. You're just not built for this. You're not even built to be a fucking politician. So why you're even looking at the possibility of running for president, I have no fucking clue. Now, with Trump, he's trying to take away viewers from the National Committee debate in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It'll be aired on the same network that fired Carlson, Fox News, of course. And since then, Carlson has been hosting a version of his political commentary show on Twitter. I didn't even know that was still on. I didn't know he was pulling enough of a crowd. I know initially he got a big crowd. And then after that, people dropped off by about 70%. And the reason is it's so unconventional way to watch Tucker Carlson. You know, every day you got to go to your Twitter account and somehow figure out how to do it. Now, if we were talking about millennials and Gen Zs, no problem. But we're talking we're talking old people in the middle of the country who have shitty Wi-Fi and don't know how to run technology. That's who they're asking to come watch Tucker Carlson on Twitter. It's not working. Now, looming large over the debate will undoubtedly be Trump's fourth criminal indictment. He must turn himself into Georgia authorities for racketeering charges by August 25th, which is next Friday. As I said, last reports I get are that he will do it toward the end of the week, Thursday or Friday. Why? I don't know. But he probably has to set up the websites and stuff so he can grift money from the people from this indictment. That's really the only value to Donald Trump. But this indictment's going to be different because the sheriff's department in Fulton County isn't fucking around. They don't care who he is. They are going to fingerprint him. They are going to get a mugshot of him. He probably will be handcuffed. And this whole process may take a little while. A lot of times I'm hearing in Fulton County Jail, you have to wait a couple of hours before you even get into the arraignment. Oh, Donnie's not going to like that. If you're going to arrest me, you got to treat me with respect. Well, to be honest with you, Donnie, nobody respects you, so good luck with that fucking deal. Apparently, his lawyers are going down maybe earlier in the week trying to negotiate some kind of bail deal. You see, with the federal government, they never charged him any money for bail. But Georgia's going to be a little different situation. They're going to want bail. And I'm suspecting they're going to want a lot of bail. And this is going to cost Donald Trump money, which he doesn't have. Now, Donald Trump's been talking for a long time that he's not going to be in the debate with his fellow primary hopefuls. His competition includes New Jersey Governor Chris Christy, who will rip Donald Trump apart. That's why he's not showing up. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He will probably bury himself on that night. Businessman Vivek Ramaswamy and former United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley, all of whom trail him significantly in the polls. And those last two aren't realistic. They're not going to be the nominees. Now, there's one other nominee that hasn't qualified for the debate. His name is Asa Hutchinson. He's a relatively normal guy. He was kind of a Trump humper at first, but now he's talking shit about Donald Trump. So that's good. But in order to qualify for this debate, you have to have 40,000 different contributors, whether they be $1 or $100. There's got to be 40,000 people that sent these people money in order to qualify for the debate. And Asa Hutchinson hasn't reached that goal as yet. When I saw him on TV, he seemed pretty confident that he would get there, but we're talking Wednesday of next week, so it's coming quick. We also know that some of these other people just ended up buying votes or buying donations. I know the guy in North Dakota, forgot his name, doesn't matter because he won't be around long. But what he did was he told everybody, if you send me $1, a donation, I will send you a gift card for $20. Well, that's a good deal if you need the $20, but it doesn't say much for the guy trying to run for president. If you've got to pay people to participate in your campaign, I would think that's a little worrisome. Now, some of the things Trump said coming up to this, he says, as everyone is aware, my poll numbers over a wonderful field of Republican candidates are extraordinary. They're extraordinary over the Republicans because the Republicans aren't that great a field. He goes on to say, people know my record, one of the best ever, so why would I debate? I'm your man. Make America great again. Now, the media did reach out to Donald Trump's camp about this for other responses, and of course, he didn't respond. Donald Trump does not want to go to the debate. because he's going to come off badly too. He's going to not do well with this situation. Let's see here. There was a woman in Texas who threatened Judge Tanya Chutkan, threatened to kill her. In the message to Chutkan, this woman named Shry is her last name, I think. Shry alleged that if Trump were not to be elected president in 2024, we are coming to kill you, and you will be targeted personally, publicly, your family, all of it, per complaint. Now, this is not a good thing to do with a federal judge. You don't want to threaten federal judges because they don't see the humor in that. They're not going to be happy about that, meaning the FBI. Now, in that same voicemail, Shry also made similar threats against Democratic Representative Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas, who is also Black, along with threats against the LGBTQ community, the complaint reads. Now, 3 days after the call, special agents with the Department of Homeland Security, Homeland Security, not the FBI, visited Shry's home in the city of Elvin, located in the Houston metropolitan area, where she allegedly admitted to have made the call, court records said. She said, yeah, I made that fucking call. She told the special agents that she was not planning to travel to D.C., but if Lee comes to Elvin, then we need to worry, the complaint states. Wow. Way to talk your way out of that one. Shry was subsequently arrested on a federal count of transmission in interstate or foreign commerce of any communication containing a threat to injure the person of another per the complaint. A detention hearing was held Tuesday. According to the court records, a Texas federal judge ordered Shry be detained pending trial. Shry's public defender did not respond to request public defender. She ain't got no money. To request for comment from CBS News, and the federal court in Washington, D.C. declined to comment. Trump was indicted earlier in the month by a federal grand jury in D.C. on 4 felony charges. Chutkan, who has overseen several cases related to the January 6th Capitol insurrection, issued a protective order last week limiting the use and disclosure of sensitive materials in the case moving forward. Trump publicly attacked Chutkan in Truth Social post Sunday, calling her very unbiased. Very unbiased. That would be very biased, I think, and unfair. Those are two contradictory words. Maybe unbiased isn't even a word. Maybe it is. Very unbiased. That would be, she is biased. I don't even know. Donald Trump doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about half the way. The point is, Donald Trump doesn't like Chutkan. He thinks she's unfair, and he's calling her out. So what happens? Then some dipshit woman from Elvin, Texas says, I'm going to kill her for Donald Trump, while she had no intention of killing her. Now, somebody talked to her. I don't know if it was her brother or her husband or both. It could have been both. But this person said that she is an alcoholic. She sits on the couch. She watches the TV news. She gets angry. And then she starts calling people and making threats. Well, that's problematic. But it's even more problematic if you do it with a federal judge, you dumb bitch. Now, recent surveys have shown increased threats to lawmakers. 60 Minutes reported in 2021 there were 4,000 threats against judges. The prior year, a more than 400% increase than 5 years earlier. Judge Esther Salas, whose 20-year-old son was killed and her husband shot by a gunman targeting her in July 20th, was called on lawmakers to enact federal legislation to scrub judges' personal information from the internet. Makes fucking sense, doesn't it? It makes a lot of sense. Since then, there have been other high-profile threats to lawmakers, including a California man who was charged in 2022 with trying to assassinate Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Yeah, there are crazy motherfucking Democrats, too. U.S. Capitol Police said in 2022 they received 7,500 cases of potential threats to members of Congress. Earlier this month, a Utah man was killed in an FBI raid after allegedly posting threats online against Joe Biden, his family. Now, former President Barack Obama as well. The deadly shooting came just 2 weeks after a man who had a warrant related to January 6th was arrested running toward Obama's Washington, D.C. home. Law enforcement sources told CBS News at the time that the man's van, which was parked nearby, had multiple weapons and the materials to make some kind of explosive device akin to a Molotov cocktail. And of course, he made threats online toward public officials. See, this is what happens. Donald Trump goes online or he gives a speech and he starts talking about how bad these people are and how we need to fight like hell to save our country. And then, of course, there is always a few crazies that will go out and do something. And the problem is something bad is going to happen ultimately. Somebody will say, well, something already bad happened. The guy in Utah died. I don't think that's bad. He fucked around. He found out. He got what was coming. He got Ashley Babbitt. I'm sorry if I'm not sensitive enough to this guy or his family, but this guy was a fucking menace, and this guy was a problem, and he was a risk to this country's security. So he did what he did. He got what he deserved. Don't feel sorry for him in the least. It just amazes me when you hear about how many people are doing this sort of thing. I mean, how is it they don't know that they are going to get arrested, put in jail, maybe for a long time, like this woman who threatened Judge Chutkan? What the fuck did she think was going to happen? You can't just leave a voicemail and figure, well, the Department of Homeland Security will never find me. Yeah, they will. I know somebody that, and I don't know why as yet, but the Department of Homeland Security, a local sheriff's department, and I think the FBI even went to talk to this family's daughter who was about 16 years old. What could that have been? Now, of course, nobody's talking about it. Nobody knows. But the point is if you're a terrorist online, if you're making threats, you're going to get that knock at the door. And if you don't behave properly, well, it's not going to end well for you. It's going to go badly. So if you're making threats out there, by all means, answer the door politely when the FBI comes. Because if you don't, there's going to be a problem. All right, we are going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Well, apparently Ron DeSantis is getting a little bit of courage, which is weird because we saw his strategies. They were posted online for some stupid reason, his strategies for the debate on Wednesday. And one of the most interesting things is that he had planned to defend Donald Trump. And I told you why he would want to do that. It's not going to be a good look for him. It's not going to play well, but in his simple little pea brain, it makes sense. He doesn't want to piss off Trump's followers because when Trump drops out, which is what he's counting on, and then he'll be able to take the lead, he's hoping that he can scoop up all of Donald Trump's followers, which I don't think will happen. People who follow Donald Trump are in a cult. And if Donald Trump isn't in the election, there's nobody that can replace him in their minds. So Ron DeSantis has still been kind of treading cautiously around Donald Trump in the primaries, careful not to suggest that Trump's mounting legal troubles or his loss in 2020 make him the wrong choice for the GOP nomination, which is ridiculous. This is the guy you're running against, but you're afraid to talk shit about him. The whole point of having a primary is to talk shit about your opponents so that you can get the nomination. But that kind of changed yesterday. In a local radio interview Tuesday, DeSantis came closer than ever to suggesting that Trump, the GOP frontrunner, despite all his baggage, shouldn't have joined the 2024 race. This is what he said. Well, look, I never thought he should run to begin with, even before all these legal cases. When he left office in January of 2021, DeSantis told veteran Boston journalist Dan Rhea on WBZ radio. Well, now, that's a gutsy call from Ron DeSantis. Now, Rhea asked DeSantis whether he thought it would be better for his party and his country if Trump stepped aside. He goes on to say, I think he did a lot of good things, and I give him credit for that. I'd love to ask one question there, such as, what did he do that was good? That wasn't asked, of course. Then DeSantis went on to say, but I never thought it was a good idea for him to run again because, one, I think we need a candidate who's going to be able to win a clear-cut victory. Two, we need a candidate that's actually going to be able to deliver on all the things that we've been talking about, and that requires focus and discipline. Oh, are you saying Donnie doesn't have focus or discipline? Actually, that's a pretty astute assessment. His remarks came days after Trump's fourth indictment, this time in Georgia, of course. DeSantis rarely takes the bait on Donald Trump, instead leaving that to his campaign's rapid response arm or the Never Back Down super PAC supporting his candidacy. But as he reboots his campaign, he's got to reboot his campaign because even though he's the heir apparent, the number two guy, he's still not doing shit. So he's got to change some things up. And as he prepares for the first Republican debate set for next week, DeSantis may need to confront Trump in a less subtle way if he wants to remain in the race. And see, that's the problem here. Does he have the courage to do it? I say no. I say no. And even if he does have the courage to do it, he's not going to have the skills to go up against a Christy or any of the other motherfuckers, because Ron DeSantis is not a smart man. Now, a recent memo suggests, however, that that's the opposite of what DeSantis is being advised to do on Wednesday. We just talked about that. The memo posted online by a consulting firm advising Never Back Down recommends that DeSantis defend Trump while attacking his other rivals. Oh, brilliant idea. That's despite a trove of other documents from the firm showing DeSantis stuck in a distant second place against the field's leader, Donald Trump. What they're suggesting he say is this: Trump isn't here, so let's leave him alone. Axiom Strategies advised DeSantis to say that at the debate, which Trump has suggested he won't attend, and we still don't know for sure. Then DeSantis would say, he's too weak to defend himself here. We're all running against him. The memo directs DeSantis instead to go after his other closest rival, Vivek Ramaswamy. Who is this motherfucker? He's some guy that made a couple of $1 billion, whatever, and now he thinks he can be president. This guy is an absolute joke. He is a Trump humper. He is falling right in line with the fascist state that is the Republican Party. Now, DeSantis has slowly been amping up the criticisms of Trump. He knows he has to do that eventually, and he's trying to ease into that. Now, Trump lost the 2020 election in calling his insults phony and juvenile at a recent New Hampshire town hall. He was asked in Iowa about Trump's one-sided feud with the state's Republican governor. DeSantis bashed the former president by name. I think Donald Trump's attacks on Kim Reynolds are totally out of bounds. We've talked to Eric about it, who is an Iowa, an Iowegian, if you will. He's not a big fan of Kim Reynolds. He calls her COVID Kim. And he stated, and other people have stated, that for whatever reason, Kim Reynolds is fairly popular in the state of Iowa. And because of that, with Donald Trump going after her all the time, that's not going to help him in the caucuses coming up. Now, if Donald Trump loses the Iowa caucus, that doesn't shut him down forever, but it doesn't help him either. Remember, was it 2020? He didn't win the Iowa caucuses either. Maybe it was 2006. Doesn't matter. Donald Trump needs to do well in Iowa, but it's not looking good for him at this point. You can't piss off a very popular governor and think that you're going to have a chance in the caucuses. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if Ron DeSantis grows a pair and actually goes after Donald Trump. There's plenty of fucking material there to go after. I don't know why you wouldn't, unless you think that somehow you'll be able to snatch up Donald Trump's voters. But again, I don't think he can. It seems like the people that like Donald Trump definitely do not like Ron DeSantis. And if they don't like Ron DeSantis, whether Donald Trump is in the campaign or not, or in the race, I don't think they're going to vote for Ron DeSantis. I think, honestly, if not Donald Trump, then nobody, and they may not vote at all. Now, let's talk about Donald Trump. Donald Trump's got 4 indictments, 91 felony charges, and a bunch of civil lawsuits. Now, Donald Trump is still dicking around with this E. Jean Carroll thing because there's another case, another trial coming up. This has got to kill Donald Trump too. He's such a vain motherfucker. Remember when they asked him his age and he couldn't say 77, he said 77. I think the fact that he's that old really bugs him. He's very vain about how he looks. He must not have a mirror because, frankly, he's this big orange tub of goo with roadkill on his head. He's not a good-looking man. He's gone to shit, and how he has the audacity to suggest other people are ugly, I don't fucking get it. But Donald Trump is so oblivious, so delusional. He thinks he's a superstar, and he's the most attractive man on earth. Donnie, you're not. You're a fucking goofy looking motherfucker. Anyway, a federal judge denied Donald Trump's latest attempt to delay a defamation trial with author E. Jean Carroll because he found that neither party was getting any younger. Now, you remember E. Jean Carroll already won a case, but now there's a second case, and he's trying to delay that one. He already lost the first case. He already owes her a minimum of $5 million, but now he wants to try to delay this one. I mean, talk about a waste of time. It's not going to get delayed, and he already lost one of the cases. U.S. District Judge Lewis Kaplan issued an order on Friday denying the former president's motion to stay the case pending an appeal of a previous ruling, saying he was not required to do so and raising concerns about ages of both plaintiff and defendant in the trial. Yeah, I mean, what happens? They're both in their late 70s. She's 79, he's 77. What happens if one of them dies? Then there is no justice. I think the judge is onto something here. You're some old motherfuckers, and we better get this done while you're still ambulatory. So the judge says this: both parties are of advanced age, and a stay of this case pending resolution of Mr. Trump's appeal would threaten delaying any compensation to which Ms. Carroll might be entitled to by at least several months, if not a year or more, Kaplan wrote. Trump is 77 years old, while Carroll is 79, and the judge himself is in his late 70s. Carroll sued the former president in 2019 for defamation after he denied her rape claims. Now, Carroll won a separate lawsuit against Trump earlier this year under the New York Adult Survivors Act for battery and defamation for statements. And those are statements he made in October, and a jury awarded her $5 million. Now, what you have to understand is, in addition to that, right after he lost that trial, he went on television the next day during his town hall meeting. You remember that one. And he defamed her again. So now, E. Jean Carroll's lawyer, in addition to running the second trial against Donald Trump, she's going to try to get an amendment added on to the first one, asking for more money because Donald Trump just went out of his way to fucking do it again. So that could end up being $10 million. Donald Trump just cannot get out of his own way. He will fuck himself over every goddamn time. Now, let's talk about Trump Jr. No, not that one. Not Donnie Jr. I'm talking about George Santos. He's a weaker, chubbier Donald Trump. George Santos has no plans to resign despite a mountain of scandals surrounding his federal fraud indictments, because in his view, everyone basically tells the same lies on their resume as he did. It's not just about that. You've got some financial issues too that are quite illegal. But he says everybody does it, so I should be fine. We don't have to try me. Santos made the comments in an interview with Fox 5 News reported by the Daily Beast. Now, in the interview, Santos claimed voters would have elected him to his Long Island congressional district, even if he had not made the original false claims, because those are insecurities. Yeah, Georgie, I bet you have a lot of insecurities. A lot of people have insecurities, he said. Most people lie on their resumes. He said he will not step down because I want to be judged by the people who elected me. Meaning, let's figure it out at the ballot box. No, Georgie, you broke some fucking laws. The ballot box is something quite different than a trial, than the justice system. You're not going to make it to the election. And even if you do, from what we hear about the people in your district, they don't want you fucking either. 2020, Santos was exposed shortly after his surprise upset election victory in 2022. He's not been there that long. He hasn't even been there 2 years. He lied about everything from his educational and professional background to having Jewish ancestry to his mother having been in the South Tower on September 11th during the attacks. Mom's still alive, by the way. Further investigations uncovered a number of suspicious patterns in his campaign finance report. See, here's where the problem is. You've been a little sketchy with your money, and that's much different than lying on your resume. Now, this all includes payment amounts that didn't make sense, donors that don't appear to exist, and a consulting firm that seems to have looted the campaign accounts of other Republican candidates. Now, earlier this year, Santos was indicted on federal charges with prosecutors alleging he deceived campaign donors and fraudulently claimed unemployment benefits. Again, these are things that are a little more sketchy than lying on your resume. He has admitted that many of his campaign claims to voters about his life were not true, but maintains his innocence from the charges against him. So you admit to it, but you still think that you're innocent. Wow. Yeah, I don't think so, George. I don't think this is going to go well for you. I don't think it's going to go well for the Republicans in general. Now, there is an arrest warrant that was just issued for January 6th defendant Christopher John Worrell this week after he disappeared ahead of his sentencing. He was released on bond, he was convicted, and now he was going to be sentenced, and poof, he's gone. Nobody knows where this motherfucker is. Big surprise. You Trumplafucks think you're tough. You Trumplafucks are talking about civil war. But when the going gets tough, you get the fuck going, don't you? Out of town, maybe out of the country. Now, Worrell, who was due to be sentenced for his part in the January 6, 2021 storming of the Capitol, went missing ahead of his sentencing on Friday, and now has been charged with violating the conditions of his release pending sentencing. Now, if he posted bail, that bail may be gone. He probably didn't post it all himself, probably a bail bondsman, and they aren't going to be happy about this. They're going to be looking for that motherfucker too. With any luck, it's Dog the Bounty Hunter, who always gets his man. Christopher John Worrell, this is a warning that went out and a mugshot. Christopher John Worrell is wanted for violating conditions of release pending sentencing on federal charges related to the violence at the United States Capitol in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. Now, a federal arrest warrant was issued for Worrell in the United States District Court, District of Columbia, on August 15th, 2023. If you have any information concerning this person, please contact your local FBI office or the nearest American Embassy consulate, assuming he's out of the country, which would be the smart thing to do. According to reports, prosecutors sought to put Worrell behind bars for 14 years after he was found guilty of 7 counts for his conduct on January 6th. Disorderly and disruptive conduct in a restricted building or grounds with a deadly or dangerous weapon, engaging in physical violence in a restricted building or grounds using a deadly or dangerous weapon, and assaulting, resisting, or impeding certain officers using a dangerous weapon. Wow, that doesn't sound good. He should probably be considered dangerous for those folks out looking for him. Tough guys running away like little pansies. That's who the Trumplafucks are. They talk a good game, but they never back up anything that they say. Let's go down to Georgia, one of Fulton County's newest judges. This will be the judge to oversee the case against former President Donald Trump and the 18 other co-defendants, according to the case docket. Now, Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee, who was appointed to the bench in February by the governor, was assigned to preside over the blockbuster case announced late Monday after a Fulton County grand jury returned a 41-count indictment. Trump and other defendants are charged under the state's Racketeering, Influenced, and Corruption Organizations Act, better known as Rico Suave. Now, this is involving multiple defendants. A whole bunch of allegations of organized or related criminal activity are notoriously complex and laborious. The thing about it is this is exactly what it was. It is a RICO case. There were a lot of moving parts, a lot of people in it, and RICO is very appropriate in this situation, in spite of the fact that Rudy Giuliani says it's not RICO. I prosecuted more RICO charges than anybody. Yes, you did, Rudy. But now you're going to get the opportunity to sit at the other table and be prosecuted yourself for the very thing that you prosecuted so many members of organized crime. And the word is that that Rudy Giuliani is getting joked about amongst those people in prison that he put there that happen to be in organized crime. They're joking about what cell might be his and how he might handle it. Oh, they're having a great old time imagining Rudy Giuliani showing up in their cell block. Now, on Monday night press conference, Willis indicated her office would pursue a far faster schedule in the Trump case, seeking trial within 6 months. CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson says this case could make McAfee one of the most recognizable faces in the country, given that Georgia allows cameras in the courtroom. Yeah, you heard that right. There will be cameras in the courtroom as Donald Trump and 18 other co-defendants are tried in court in Fulton County. This is important. Everybody needs to see the facts, the evidence, and how this plays out and how Donald Trump responds. There'll be no bullshitting around like the media tends to do and not tell people certain things and not lie about certain things. Everybody will get to see the facts, the truth as it happens in court. And that is very important to the healing of this country. Now, of course, this is going to cause the judge some unique challenges, and he is a young judge. He's probably a younger judge than Aileen Cannon, but probably definitely more competent. The thing is, Levinson said no judge in the world has had this case before. You could have a judge with 50 years of experience and it would still be a new and unique case. I mean, that's what you got to understand. This case or these cases will be the largest criminal cases we've seen in the history of this country. This will make O.J. Simpson look like small potatoes. Levinson believes McAfee's past history of working in the Fulton County District Attorney's Office could help. He knows how the county prosecutor's office functions. That will be helpful for him. He knows how criminal trials progress from the attorney's side, and that will be helpful for him. While he's been a federal judge, shorter time than Aileen Cannon, he's got far more experience than she's ever had. Now, he's still in his first year as a judge. This isn't McAfee's first time handling a case with a politically sensitive defendant. According to court documents, McAfee fined pro-Trump attorney Lin Wood $5,000 for violating an injunction in June. McAfee ruled that Wood explicitly violated a court order prohibiting Wood from making public derogatory statements about the plaintiffs in the case. Lin Wood was in the thick of it with Donald Trump as well. Now, before his judicial appointment, McAfee was Georgia's Inspector General, tasked with investigating waste, fraud, abuse, and corruption in the executive branch. Georgia's Republican Governor Brian Kemp, who chose him for the job in March of 2021, called McAfee a strong addition to my administration because of his prior experience as a tough prosecutor. Now, the fact of the matter is, I think this guy will do just fine. I don't think he'll be a problem, unlike Aileen Cannon down in Florida. But I think Aileen Cannon will be dealt with at some point, and we won't have to see Aileen Cannon in that trial forever. I'm sure Jack Smith is a little upset. He's a little busy these days, though. But I'm sure he's a little upset with Aileen Cannon. I think he probably set a trap for her. She's making some poor choices. As I stated earlier, Donald Trump sent her a little note looking for help. Now, if she responds to that, that's going to be a no-no. Is she dumb enough to do that? Well, everything we've seen up to this point tells us she is. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Now, in Fulton County DA's office, McAfee handled hundreds of felony cases ranging from armed robbery to murder. His LinkedIn profile says he worked on several probes in its major case division. In a statement made after his appointment to the bench in December of 2022, McAfee vowed to do my homework. Lawyers can expect that I'll have read their pleadings and be ready to dive into the issues, he said. McAfee is a longtime resident of the state, graduated with a degree in music from Emory University, and received his law degree from the University of Georgia. McAfee's biography on the IG's website also notes that he previously worked for 2 Georgia Supreme Court justices. So this kid is experienced, unlike Aileen Cannon. I mean, I think Aileen Cannon only tried like 4 cases. She didn't know what the fuck she's doing, and hopefully they can get her off this case in Florida. But as I've said before, I don't worry about Florida as much as I did earlier, because there's just so much other shit that's going on. If that case doesn't get tried till after the election, it probably doesn't matter, because I would guess that the January 6th case with Judge Chutkin will probably be the first one that takes off, and that may be the most damaging one to Donald Trump, unless there's Georgia. And if Fani Willis wants to get this started in 6 months and she gets it anywhere near then, that's going to end pretty quickly. We may have a bunch of convictions before we even get to Florida. Hopefully that's not the case, but if it is, then I think we'll be fine. We don't need a million convictions of Donald Trump. We only need a couple, 1 or 2. That will be enough to take him out of the equation and put him away. And that's all we need to do at first. And hopefully the Fani Willis and Jack Smith will be able to scoop up the rest of these fucking clowns, these acolytes of Donald Trump. There's one other thing I wanted to bring up, and I don't know if there's anything to this or not. I heard a lot of people on TikTok talking about it, but all too often things happen. People get all wired up about it, and it's nothing, and it could be nothing. But apparently in Washington, D.C., a judge was given a sealed indictment. Now, a lot of people are thinking that this might be superseding indictments from Jack Smith, and it very well could be. That makes some sense. But we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. So there's no reason to get excited about it until we hear some kind of determination as to what it is. People will tell you, oh my God, it's about ready to pop again. It could be the finance stuff. It could be something else, some superseding indictments that we've heard about with J6. I don't know if that's what the case is. I don't know if there's going to be anything in this particular indictment, but just know that there will be superseding indictments, especially in the January 6th case. We've already seen some in the classified documents case. We may see more there. We also may see an indictment coming out of New Jersey. There's all kinds of things yet to come. Georgia, we thought might be the last set of indictments, but I don't think it is. I think we'll see more from Jack Smith, a lot more from Jack Smith, and it's just going to pile on to a heavy load that Donald Trump and the Trump-fucks are carrying currently. So I wouldn't get too excited about that, in spite of what some people might be saying on TikTok. It may very well be superseding indictments, but we don't know. Nobody knows. They're sealed, for God's sake. That's why we don't know. So instead of getting excited or upset or whatever it is you want to be, let's just wait and see what the fuck happens, and then we'll decide how to feel about it. All right. We are going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen. I hope you have a great day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.